Hey everybody, it's Rory from ANSgear, and we're here to take a look at the new Empire Mini GS. We've got a box here, a brand new one. We're going to open it up and take a look and see what comes inside. Instruction manual, some foam, gun inside here. Now this is one of our special edition guns, different color. This is the dark lava color. Underneath here, we've got, as you can see, parts kit, barrel, and barrel sleeve right there. Take the barrel out. Now for comparison, I have GS and I have an original Mini. Barrels, both guns are going to come with a ported 12-inch barrel. Now, the only difference between the two is the milling on them. Same barrel, other than that, just new milling style. The gun itself, we'll start with just some basic specs. Both guns still have the shockwave board in them for the main board. Has all your standard firing modes, NPPL semi-auto, PSP, 3-shot, Millennium, ramping, and full auto. The manual says 23 balls per second. You know, seeing as though no tournament lets you shoot like that anymore, there's no reason to ever run a gun that high, but it's capable of doing that. Weight-wise, we take our barrel and screw it on here real quick. We'll be able to see how much we're weighing here. So the original Mini, that one says just over 2 pounds. Take this off. Thread a barrel on. So 1 pound, 14 ounces. So 2 ounces lighter with the new one. Take the barrels off so we can get a better look here. Now, some of the major features that you can see from the outside of the gun would be obviously just the overall look of the gun. We've got a different front grip here. The original one was metal. They now have a full rubber surrounding grip on the front. Upper section's the same, detent's the same. Grips look different, but they're pretty much the same. Major difference on the bottom here, the new GS comes with the on-off relay. Makes degassing the gun easier, makes removing your tank easier. Still has the gauge on there, 0 to 300 gauge. Minis run 180 to 200 PSI. There's no reason to ever go over 200 PSI. If you do, there's obviously something wrong with your gun if you can't achieve velocity if you're not over 200 PSI. Second major difference from the outside would be the feed necks. The original Mini had a threaded feed neck. Caused some problems. They would unthread, come loose, people could snap them off. When it came time to change them or to put a different one on, a new one, you could ruin them trying to pull them out, ruin the body pulling it out, cause some problems. So the new one is very similar to a Bob Long style or an Ego style where it actually clamps on to the top of the body. You've got one set screw right here that is going to hold the feed neck onto the body itself. Makes it much easier to remove, change, just customize down the road. Looking more towards the internals of the gun, as far as the front grips go, original one, metal door, held the battery in place. New one, fully rubber grips, holding the front of the gun in place. Flip this over, we can see that in the original gun, the battery was held in with a wire system, a wire harness connecting to the battery. People ripped these out, they broke them, they ripped the wires apart, cut the wires, smashed the wires. All sorts of things happened with the wiring that caused it to be ruined. So on the new one, the battery is no longer held in with a wire harness. The tabs of the terminal right here are actually part of the front assembly. So when you go to put the battery in, basically you just snap it in and you're connected and ready to go. Makes changing the battery easier and makes it less prone to have problems. If you look at the back, you can see that the button compared to the old one is considerably larger. It's hard to see right there. Lights in the same spot still. But the way they've secured the front grip here to the frame, you've got one really large screw back here, and then a screw here, as well as a screw on the other side. Now this makes for a very sturdy connection of front grip to frame, compared to the old one, which just had two screws right there, which were very easy to strip out. They were very small. They backed themselves out during play, causing the front grip to become loose, sometimes losing contact with the front of the gun. So take that off of there and get this out of the way. We're going to pull off our lower frames. As you noticed, I've removed all the screws before doing this just to make it easier and less time consuming. Internally, the guns are the same as far as the pieces that come in them. Same solenoid. The only difference here is the transfer tube in the GS uses the same upper transfer tube as the Axe does. This uses the original mini one. But other than that, they're the same. Lower transfers are the same. If we pull the bolt out, get this thing out of here. It can be a little tight. You can see between the two, this is the new one. This is the old one here. Pretty much identical. The bolt and the spring are the same. The front of the guide is the same. Everything is the same, except for the back end. If we look at the back end here, you can see that there is a difference between the two. On the original one, there was an index pin right here, and there is a hole, a little hard to see, in the bolt right there. When you go to slide these two together, the pin right here needs to line up with the hole, and that's how it goes together. And then a screw comes up through the bottom and holds them in place. Now on the new one, the indexing pin is actually part of the bolt itself, right there. And there is a slot milled into the back of the gun here. It's hard to see right there. So when you put the bolt in, you line up the pin with the slot, screw comes through the bottom, holds everything in place. I would say probably the best or most different change, besides a cosmetic feature to the outsides of the gun, would be the upper board assembly. The original upper board used a magnetic sensor on the upper board to know when the trigger had been activated. Now it's very easy to set the triggers in the wrong position, to give the parameters of activation on the trigger out of spec, so that you couldn't tell if the trigger was being pulled, or if it was being held down, or all sorts of different problems. People ran into all sorts of issues with that. So on the new one, they've gotten rid of the magnetic switch, and they've opted for a standard micro switch right here. Makes for setting the trigger easier, knowing how far you're in or out on your trigger, knowing if you've gone too far, knowing if you're not far enough. Gives you some sort of response when you pull the trigger, or an auditory response, so you can hear the click, knowing how far your trigger is or where it is, making it very easy to set up the trigger. No more guessing with where your trigger is. Now you know for sure where your trigger is. We'll throw these back together real quick. Put that on there. Put this back on here. All right, so we've taken a look at the new Empire Mini GS. Order yours now at ANSgear.com.